Hey, ho, ho, hello. Welcome to Mark Stay's Creative Differences, a monthly live stream where I talk to writer friends about the little things that make a big difference to their craft and careers in the hope that we can give readers some insight to the creative process and writers and other creative folk some practical advice they can actually use. I'm Mark Stay, author, screenwriter, and podcaster. And if you're joining us live, feel free to ask questions in the comments. Tell us where you're joining us from today. Be part of the conversation. A big thank you, as always, to Dom Currie for the jingle. Here we go. It's the last episode of Creative Differences in 2024. And despite being a bit of a Scrooge when it comes to certain festive activities, I mean, cards, Christmas cards, especially those cards where people just put your name and their name. What's the point of those? Despite all that, I think I've really pushed the boat out. Oh, my hat's coming off. It's very difficult to keep this hat on. I think I've pushed the boat out here. Look, we've got Christmas lights, festive lights. I've got a hat on and everything else. And what else could anyone want? I mean, maybe from books and Lego and notebooks and world peace. I ask for that every Christmas as well. So yeah, let's introduce our special guest. So we are delighted to welcome the Kiwi author of cozy mysteries and romantic comedies, including the Milverton Mysteries, which are set in an enchanting small New Zealand town and were described by an Amazon reviewer as Agatha Christie, but make it gay. It's only GB Ralph. Yay!
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us from the other side of the world. How is it down there?
Much warmer than at your house. I did have a Christmas jumper on before, but I had to take it off because I was not going to last this recording with all that heat. The hat is enough.
I've got family in Australia, and when I was a kid, you get these things. Oh, we're celebrating Christmas with the Barbie on the beach, kind of thing. It was all very, but it's
Christmas, obviously.
All these northern hemisphere trappings of hats and trees and snow and everything.
Oh yeah, the seasons are all back to front. It's all the wrong way around. It's like Christmas and Easter. You've got new life and eggs, but it's autumn. And then Christmas, you've got snow globes, but you've also got shorts and t-shirt and jandals on. And you are going to the beach, you're going for a swim, barbecue. At Christmas, you've got the roast and all the trappings and all of the winter warming food. And then you have salads and sausages and bread. All of the things that you might have at a barbecue. But that means you've got twice as much food, so you last through Boxing Day all the way to New Year's without having to cook anything new.
We've got people from Portland, Oregon, from the Scilly Isles. Amy sends her regards. Andrew's here. Lovely to see so many wonderful people. Laura's here. Hello. Nicola May's here. Some big news about Nicola May towards the end of the show. Stay tuned for that. Quebec, Canada. Melina's here from Quebec. Wow, this is amazing. It's truly cosmopolitan, isn't it? It's fantastic stuff. Susie's here. Hi, Susie Edge is here.
Hello,
Susie Edge. Laura wants a dog with his squeaky toy. Well, that was last. That was no dogs.
And I've shut the door so the cat won't be coming in either.
Gavin, tell us all about these wonderful books, the Milverton Mysteries.
The one on the front there, Death in Douglas Glade, which you're holding up, is the third. Just released the other day. It's a series that is set just down the road from where I live in New Zealand. My main character, Addison Harper, is a 30-year-old gay man, Wellington City boy, who has been summoned to my fictional scenic small town of Milverton to sort out an inheritance. But it's not long before he trips over a dead body, and he's looking very guilty, so he has to sort it out to clear his name, as is the way with cozy mysteries. We know it, we love it. An added complication is that he's quite taken by the investigating officer, Sergeant Jake Murphy. I'm quite proud of the end of the sort of keyword dump at the end of my blurb, the series, so I'm just going to read it out.
Go.
The Milverton Mysteries feature a chaotic cast of local busybodies, delicious baked treats, a demanding and disdainful ginger cat, a very slow burn romance with a rather appealing policeman, and of course, murder.
See, you mentioned baked treats there. I mean, you open a random page and there was going to be a pastry, a cookie, a cake, some warm fuzzy drink. Is that the secret to cozy? Pastries and cakes and that sort of thing?
I think they are a common element, but really, and it was a common element that I was very willing to take up because obviously a lot of research is required. My partner and my sister are big bakers and we've got some excellent bakeries in town. So if you go get coffee, you're sort of like, well, I have to peruse the cabinet and see what they have on offer. And so, if I'm going to do it, then I'm going to make my character do it as well, because then I'm like, well, how does that taste? So I will have to push the boat out a little bit and pick out some other baked treats that I wouldn't normally be my go-to.
It's research, tax deductible research. Yeah.
I wouldn't go that far. I don't want to draw too much attention to it. I think I could spare a few dollars for a baked treat.
Now, the wonderful thing about these books is you combine these really pacey mysteries, but there's a slow burn romance as well. How do you keep that balance? Because you want to keep people turning the page for the murder mystery element of it, but also you want to keep them on the hook over a course of books for the romance element. So how do you manage all that?
I don't, not really. But the Milverton Mysteries are mysteries, first and foremost. Within each book will be a crime will be committed, investigated, solved. The baddie gets caught in the end. All is right with the world. That's the promise to the reader. The slow burn romance is secondary to the mystery in these books, and it is very slow burn, which I am glad that I mentioned on the back of the first book, because I had reader reviews saying, love the book, and the author was not kidding when he said it was very slow burn. That's a get out of jail free card that one was, by putting that on the back. The romance of these books doesn't hit all of the story beats a purely romance reader might expect. So I don't pitch the books as a romance, because there are murders to be solved, and we can't have the investigating officer and our self-appointed amateur sleuth swanning off for romantic dates or lustful encounters when there are dead bodies lying about.
Well, exactly. As Short Round once said,
no time for love. We got company.
I mean, this is something I've sort of done with the Woodville books is have this I sort of didn't realize I really had a romance until the end of the first one.
Yeah.
And it's all about sort of teasing the reader, because ideally when we see people in love, we're like, get together, get on with it, love each other. But when you're an author, you've got to do everything to sort of keep them apart, isn't it? I mean, it's
absolutely.
It's teasing the reader. You have to sort of take delight in that, don't you?
I've had people, they're like, oh, it's really slow burn, Gavin. And I'm like, well, they've only known each other like 3 or 4 weeks across these 3 books. And they've had three murders to solve. So they've had a lot of distraction. So there hasn't been any time for other amorous things. But I think of the mystery as the sort of the driving force behind the story within each book. And the slow burn romance is being sort of one aspect of the character's development through the series. So I know that there's going to be a little bit of development each book. And I don't know, I think that's what keeps readers coming back, because of course they want to solve the mystery. They're mystery books. They want the mystery to be solved, but they enjoy spending time with the characters, and they want to see how their friendships and relationships, platonic or otherwise, develop.
Yes, there's also what I call the moonlighting factor, and you're too young to remember the TV show Moonlighting, I'm sure, which was oh God, I've forgotten her name. So it's Bruce Willis and very famous award-winning actress, and I've forgotten her name. The whole series was about that tension between them, but the minute they kissed, the show was over. We all lost interest. It was. So there is a danger that if your characters are happy, then why come back for more? Sybil Shepherd. Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you, Martin.
I have got beyond a kiss, but I'm like, there's plenty more for them to do. But there's also, considering I've got the investigating officer and the guy who just keeps involving himself, there's plenty of tension between these two, either having to work together or against each other or stepping on each other's toes, which can impact the romance and sort of slow things down, or I don't know, becomes a bit more peaks and troughs as opposed to just a steady, pleasant incline.
Speaking of peaks and troughs, that's a lovely segue. And folks, if you're interested in the life and craft of an indie author, do go to GB Ralph's website. Sign up to the newsletter, because the newsletter is great. I really look forward to it coming in. And you put something up recently on your newsletter. You talk about how you work in scenes and not chapters. And then you put up these charts with the chapter word count. So can we get a bit nerdy and talk about those, Gavin?
Of course. I can't think of chapters, because that's kind of like the chopped up packaged version for the reader, and I think in scenes, and then later on I think, okay, now how can I cut these up into bite-sized pieces or get to the end of a chapter and make you want to go to the next one. I've gone through multiple rounds of edits with the story just as scenes, with a sort of not a chapter title, just a descriptive 10 or 20 word description, almost like a headline of what happens in this scene, as in what is the point of this scene's existence. And then I write it out. And then it's not until sort of I'm preparing the book for beta readers that I'll chop it up into chapters, because I want them to read it and experience it how a reader might. So I end up with some clunkiness and some unsatisfying breakpoints for my chapters, which my beta readers are very helpful in pointing out to me. But that's fine, because it's not been released to the wider public yet, and I can work on that in subsequent edits and really, make it so you want to keep reading, keep the pace up as much as possible. But it's trying to find that balance between both. But so chopping the chapters comes later.
Here we go. So this is for the first book in the series, Murder on Milverton Square. And for listeners on the podcast, we're looking at a bar chart here, which goes through 39 chapters. And on the y-axis, I think, on the x-axis, you've got the number of words in each chapter. Only one of which is over 2,500. So the average seems to be about, between 1,000 and 1,500. So is this something you look at afterwards and think, and look for those peaks and troughs? Or is this just an exercise for you to just figure out the shape of it? When are you looking at this?
Basically, when I'm trying to chop it up for beta readers, I mean, I'm pretty loosey-goosey as far as the word count is concerned, but I don't know. I don't want them to be wildly out of sync. Like looking at this plot, they sort of go between as low as maybe 1,000 and some above 2,500.
So chapter 11 is the long one. Addison sat alone in a sparse office at Milverton's police station. So that's only...
That's just post the murder.
Okay.
You've gone from really exciting, tense, things are building up, dead body, and then now we're sitting in a really dull, sterile, fluorescent, blank room in the police station, and he's just waiting, being anxious about what's happening next.
Brilliant. Jeff says, same here. I think of them as beats or units of action, each of which might have multiple scenes in and only divide into chapters in the edit. So this is incredibly common.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to the second book? Let's look at the second book, Poison at Penshaw Hall. The chapter average seems to be a bit longer this time.
Yeah.
But what's interesting here is towards the end, you seem to have more of the shorter chapters. So is that the pace picking up towards the finish line, as it were?
Possibly. And there's a bit of debrief, and you sort of, you get to the big end and you don't want to spend too long fluffing around once everything's all wrapped up. But also, I think those final few chapters are when we've got, I mean, it's not really a spoiler because it doesn't give away what happens, but there's a bit of a car chase, which I am disproportionately proud of, because it is a little bit of excitement when otherwise it's just my characters fluffing around town, having a great time, having a bit of fun. And then, so this is a bit exciting, and I was quite proud of this car chase scene. It's as far as thrillers go, it's probably dead boring, but I was like, this is exciting stuff. I love it.
Fantastic. And here we go with Death in Douglas Glade, which is the new book. And what's interesting here is those first 8 chapters or so, it's long, short,
yeah.
which to me suggests really pacey opening, maybe. It's because pace just isn't about being fast, it's about having the change in pace. You have a take a breather, then something exciting happens, maybe take a breather, just to keep people on the hook.
I didn't do it long, short on purpose. That's how the story fell. And I think it was more chopping between Addison's being stuck in his head, thinking about things, because it starts off with him on a date, and then, oh no, we found a dead body on our date. How could that possibly happen? But it's sort of swapping between him being stuck in his head, worrying and thinking, because he's quite an anxious character, but then alternating between that and chatting with his date, with a potential suspect, with somebody else in the police station. So we're sort of alternating between in his head and out of his head. And I'm not sure if that lines up with the short, long. By the time I'm getting to this point, I'm sort of sick of looking at the book. But I put these together just so that I can see any big outliers. Because if I'm averaging, say, 1,500, 2,000 words per chapter, and then I see a 7,000 word chapter, I'm like, well, this is the pace is, the readers have been reading half a book and then they get this 7,000 word chapter and they're like, wait, you made a costume change in the break, have we?
Oh, it's just some antlers. Don't worry. Just ignore those.
But yeah, so like if I have a 7,000 word chapter and then I'm like, okay, this is probably too slow, or something more needs, if I can't chop this into 2 or 3 chapters, then maybe it's languishing in the middle, or there's nothing drawing people along. So maybe it's a bit of a sign that, Gavin, you're taking your sweet time. It's maybe time to, is this conversation necessary? Is this sort of tangent in his head necessary? Do I need to chop out some words?
And how are you generating these? Is this just you manually putting these into a spreadsheet?
Yes, that is a manual.
But what I've seen, you use a lot of numbers in your newsletters and your social media. You say so many hours working, so many words a day, that kind of thing. Is that just because you're a numbers person, or is that the sort of thing that people on social media react to and respond to? Do you get people reacting to that kind of stuff?
Both. I think I didn't do it on purpose because I thought people would. It's easy to understand a little number. People can understand 5 pages. They can understand 2 hours or whatever it is. I am quite a numbers person. When people say, maths is terrifying, I was like, I love it. I used to be a geotechnical engineer. Yeah, maths is fine. Numbers, I love a spreadsheet. And so I'm quite happy to put these put these graphs together.
In Total Film Magazine, they would have a sort of graph for the big movies of the month, and they would show you the peaks of interest. And it didn't reflect any kind of length of scenes or anything like that, but they would say, oh, we love this bit, but this bit was boring. Yeah. And I think it does help to think of your story as a peaks and troughs as a roller coaster, and troughs are not necessarily a bad thing. Troughs are maybe where you just decompress, you slow things down a bit, and then we get excited, because if it's all up here, then it's just exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting, isn't it?
Talk about numbers though. We deal in words all day, every day, but you can't chuck a chapter up on social media and then expect people, as they're scrolling past, to think, oh, I'm going to pause and read for 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, they don't do it. Yeah. You had a book launch recently at the Palmerston North City Library. I've put some images up here, which was with the Bruce Mackenzie booksellers, and I've pitched these images from your social media.
Yeah, go for it.
It's absolutely packed, and was it your first live book launch, or had you done them before?
For the previous books, it was more just dinner at home with friends, an excuse to take some pictures and other people holding up the book. So this was the first public in-person book launch, which was quite daunting. But they had to get more chairs out, which was
result.
Which was wonderful to see, especially when I had convinced myself that 2 people were going to turn up, and that was it.
That's a top tip, actually. Put too few chairs out before the event.
Yes.
How did you pack the house out? Any tips for that? You've been, just to say ahead of this podcast, you've been fantastic. You've been sharing it on social media. You have a newsletter. You've got a following. To fill up an actual room of people is really quite tough. So how did you pull that off?
I think it came into a few things. One of them being that I really benefited from the relationships that I've built with the local booksellers and the librarians, and we all wanted it to be a successful event. The library gets to host a fun event, a fun and well-attended event, even better. The booksellers get to sell books, of course, but also engage with local readers and book buyers, which is a good reminder in the lead up to Christmas. This is also how I met and befriended Bing Turkby, fellow cozy mystery author of the Guitar Store Mysteries, who agreed to interview me up the front on the night. It was fantastic, and it was much easier than holding court up there by myself.
Yes, that does make a difference, doesn't it? Yeah, fantastic. And speaking of booksellers and librarians, Certainly in the UK, authors can struggle, indie authors can struggle, well, any author actually can struggle to get their books into a bookshop or into a library. You were befriending them, you were going in, what were you doing? Giving them copies? How did that conversation start?
The bookseller or the librarian would come over and says, "Oh, Gavin's an author too, blah, 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 blah. And his books are fantastic," or "I read his books and da-da-da." And then, so it just ended up being, because I didn't want to be the author going into the bookshop and saying, "Here are my books, please let them take up space on your shelf," because I couldn't bring myself to do it. But I ended up having the bookseller saying, "Gavin, why haven't you bought your books? And I thought you were going to bring them in so we can have a look." And so yeah, brought them in and they stocked them, and then again I posted about it and it says, "Look, now I have a local bookseller that you can buy your books from." And then they sold them all and says, "Oh, can you bring in some more?" And I was like, "Sure, I can." So that was reassuring to see that the copies were moving, and I didn't feel embarrassed that I have these books taking up all this shelf space, because I'm like, oh, they are moving, which is great. I think that was the other thing that I learned about this book launch, was not to be shy to tell people.
Yeah.
There's no sort of "please come to my party" kind of thing. But you can like share your excitement about it, and you can say, "Oh, this is what's happening. This is who might be coming." But the bookstore and the library were great, putting posters up, and I wasn't shy about flooding social media 2 weeks out, 1 week out, 3 days out, 1 day out.
I think the key phrase there is share the excitement. There's a fine line between being braggy and boasty and actually being genuinely, "Oh gosh, something's going to happen. Yeah. This thing's going to happen. Is the book's coming out. I'm genuinely excited. I'm thrilled about this."
And then I think they take some of that on, and they want to be a part of the excitement, as opposed to you saying, "Come along and support me," which is really a hard thing to do, and you don't have to do it. I don't think. You can just say, I think this will be really cool, and I'm a bit nervous about this, and then they'll want to come along and support you, because I don't know. Well, hopefully they do. But
yeah,
I think the final thing that I learned was to look up and sort of enjoy it, because I was too busy thinking about sounding coherent, and I sort of forgot to be a bit present. I suspect that may be easier said than done, but next time it is definitely something I will try.
Let's go back to where it all started. I want to talk about the Rise and Shine series, which is Duck and Dive, Slip and Slide, Over and Out. Are these the ones that you were writing on your commute into London?
Especially the first two, I think. And then it was it COVID times by then? I can't remember. So there was no commuting going on then. Because I was writing it on my phone.
Wow.
Yeah. When they had the little ergonomics, set up your desk kind of things that you had to do every year at work, and you're, here we go again. But then one of the little add-ons was mobile use. And I learnt how to hold my phone properly, because, hang on, let me demo for the video. Holding like that and then typing on it with the other hand, the other finger. Because normally you hold it in two hands and you tap, tap, tap with your thumbs. Yeah. But then I was finding just pain up sort of my underside of my hand. I don't know what all the bits are called, up your thumb and up your wrist kind of thing. But
like a carpal tunnel kind of thing. Yeah.
So holding the phone with one hand and typing with your finger with the other one, and I felt so weird doing it. But it means you're moving your whole arm and you're not straining stuff. But anyway, it was so convenient and easy to do, and I could just tap out some words. Didn't have to get out all my kit and get out my keyboard. And I did upgrade to getting a Bluetooth keyboard. So I just propped my phone up on the tray table and then had my keyboard on my lap. Oh, amazing.
It's interesting because these are novellas, these and they do get progressively longer as well. Is that something you noticed as well? Was that just... There
was no plan.
No plan. It just happened organically.
It was supposed to be a short story of only a few pages, which grew into a 100-page novella, which is the first one, which then grew into 3 novellas, each longer than the last one. But I didn't go in with any plan. They were a lot of fun, but they are very much my guinea pigs, my test dummies.
What were the biggest lessons you learned from working on these that you ported over into the Milverton Mysteries?
Well, the first thing I learned really was that I could finish something, which I think was so important and just so valuable. And so that Duck and Dive will always have a special place in my heart, because it was a thing that I'd finished. But with these books, I learnt the process. I learned how the sausage is made. Like writing a book was no longer this magical, mystical, unattainable thing. It was just this sustained effort, equal parts fun and frustrating, but completely rewarding. I had written a book. The other most important thing I learned with these things, the thing that I took to the Cozy Mysteries was reader and genre expectations.
Right.
I wrote these rom-coms to amuse myself, and I amused myself, but they are varying lengths. They are not romantic enough for romance. They are not comedic enough for comedy. There's too many secondary characters with too much screen time, too many funny old people, too many laddish mates, too much swearing, not enough focus on the main
This sounds
pairing.
great. I don't see what the problem is.
I know. As I say, I had a great time writing them. The first book, I think that is the third iteration of the cover, but they're my guinea pigs, and so I could change them. And now, that cover, it communicates what's in the book now, and that is what it's designed to do. But I finished these and I was like, okay, I need to be more focused. And I thought I either need to, my shortlist was like, I need to write about characters falling in love or solving crime. So I decided to do both. But to still keep the focus, mystery sort of takes top billing. And then, and then I knew I could have fun with the romance running in parallel, but in the background a little bit. So it's effectively the secondary genre or the series subplot. But the biggest challenge of writing cozy mysteries themselves were the restrictions imposed by the genre, because it's no graphic violence, no explicit bedroom activities, no swearing, no harming puppies or children, and like I said before, the baddie gets it in the end. You know that everything's right with the world. It's murder, but we have a wonderful time. Limitations, they force creativity, and I found myself having so much fun skirting around the edges or sort of brushing up against these limitations and coming up with plausibly deniable ways to cover slightly more adult content while remaining PG. It's like with the Witches of Woodville books. They can be enjoyed by children and adults because they have adult themes and content, but it is not obvious to maybe a younger reader that that's what's happening, and they sort of miss it, but the adults get it.
Absolutely. And look, let's face it, kids are tougher than we think especially when there's a thing, we were talking about this at dinner, weren't we? There's a thing going around on the internet with someone saying, the novel for Wicked contains adult material not suitable for children. And they reel it all off. And I'm thinking, well, that also counts out Shakespeare and the Bible. So, calm yourself down. Let's move on to our regular questions. So I ask these of all our guests every month. Okay, let's kick off. What small thing has made a big difference to your creative process?
In your last month's episode with Mike Shackle, I was like, that's a great answer. A small thing that has made a big difference in my creative process is having a deadline. No deadline, nothing happens. Deadline, let's go. I work well to a deadline, which is something I learned back in school. But as an indie author, there's not really such a thing as a deadline. So I had to create one myself, which is the main one is setting up a pre-order for the next book.
Yes, you do that, don't you? Because if you get that wrong, certain online retailers get very upset with the authors, and you're not allowed to do one next time around. And
I know, which is motivating.
Yeah.
It can be stressful, but I think it's a good kind of stress, the motivating kind, not the debilitating kind. It's still deadline. It can be a year away, which is forever. And I need to constantly remind myself that I need to make little deadlines along the way, ones that have consequences. Otherwise, I'll pull a Douglas Adams and enjoy the whooshing sound as deadlines go by.
What's the thing that makes you think you're ready to start writing on a project?
When I back calculate from my deadline and find that I'm already behind schedule. I don't know. Where is even the start line? Is it jotting down ideas, sketching them out, plotting? Is it start writing? It was a dark and stormy night. I'm ready to start drafting my next book now, like as in scene 1. As of this week, I have a victim. I have a handful of suspects. each with their potential motives, and that's about it. But I have about 2 novels worth of content, and that I want to fit into one novel. So we're bursting at the seams, and I need to start writing to see what ideas are actually smaller than I thought they were. Ones that don't fit in at all, ones that are maybe bigger than I had originally thought, and will spark more ideas.
How do you remember that idea that you have at 3 a.m?
The Notes app on my phone. I have this wonderful image of myself being this author who has a notebook and jots things down, and I don't know, looks wistfully out the window at the scenery. But I'm like, it's the Notes app on my phone, because I always have my phone on me. And like, other than the middle of the night, it's in the shower and on a run. They're all difficult places to be taking notes.
Yes.
So it will be jump out of the shower, dry my hands at least, and then get my phone and jot down the idea. Or when I'm running, is waiting till I've got a nice clear bit of pavement in front of me, and then trying to either briskly walk, or depending on how brave I'm feeling, I'll keep jogging and just jot down some. And then I look later and I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. But the Notes app on my phone.
I have an exercise bike, so I because the blood's flowing, isn't it? And that's one of the things that really helps. And suddenly you're thinking, and so luckily I don't run anyone over in my exercise bike, so yeah, Shell's the same thing as well. Yeah. What's the best happy accident of your writing career?
I think the Milverton Mysteries audiobooks. Sorting out audiobooks was this thing on my to-do list that I really wanted to do, but it was just so daunting, so outside my experience. I'm very happy publishing my ebooks and my paperbacks myself, but audiobooks is a whole other kettle of fish. I received a random message through the contact form on my website from someone purporting to be a commissioning editor from an audiobook publisher, and I thought, surely not. Next time I caught up with a local author friend for coffee, I was like, do you reckon this is legit? And she says, well, it could be. And it was. So it was a happy accident, but I also think it was because I'm constantly talking about my books in every way I can think to do it, on every platform and place where readers are.
Yeah, we've got a question from Laura here. I enjoyed the audiobooks, but was surprised they were read by an English guy rather than a Kiwi. Was this a deliberate choice, or was it made by you or the audiobook producers?
When they asked, like, who do you think? Like, give us a bit of a short list of who you think could be this narrator, what they would sound like. I said, ideally a Kiwi. And then I said, but you cannot have an Australian. Absolutely not. No offense to Australians, I love them dearly. But any Australian or Kiwi listening to this audiobook would be like, no, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Even the Australians would be like, that's an Australian accent, that's not a Kiwi accent. So, I mean, maybe Americans won't notice, but we will know down here. And I think part of the appeal of these books for Americans, which are the biggest readers of these books, is that it is something they don't know, something they're not familiar with, but it's nice and they like it. And so having an American narrator, I think, would have sort of shattered that illusion. So I said, if you can't get a Kiwi, some other sort of generic Commonwealthy accent might be the go. And so I was sort of thinking some Southeast England accent, which people are used to hearing on the TV, and so they won't notice as much. And then they sent me this audition tape from Philip Batley, who is the audiobook narrator of these books. And I was like, yes, absolutely, sign him up. Fantastic. I was looking up, and his voice acting credits, huge. And then I was like, oh, he's been on a couple of episodes of Downton Abbey. And I was like, yes, everybody knows Downton Abbey. That's fantastic.
That's great.
He's done such a good job. And so many readers have come on board because they just like, I listen to everything that he makes. And I don't normally listen to Cozy Mysteries, but I really enjoyed these. So lots of readers I'm picking up via Philip Batley, which is really cool. And so many people says, it's like the Witches of Woodville books, how the audiobook, the narration just sort of takes it to the next level, you know? It's like, oh, it's been read to me. And so he's not a Kiwi, but I think he does a fantastic job. So many of these characters have accents, and I'm like, I would never have picked that. I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. Because I said, you're the professional. Please just assign them to people. I gave him a bit of a guidance on some of the main characters of the types of voice they might have, but otherwise I was like, go to town.
Is there a character or story swirling around in your mind that you want to write, but you're not ready to write yet?
I really want to write an epic space opera, which is
Great
very,
answer.
very off genre. But I read quite widely. I don't just read in mysteries and rom-coms, but I'm sort of talking like Peter F. Hamilton, The Expanse, Martha Wells, Alistair
Brilliant.
Reynolds, June, Adrian Tchaikovsky, N.K. Jemisin. Really, I mean, I'm writing mysteries at the moment, and some of these books that they've written include mysteries, include romance,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm like, these are all things that can go into a space opera. But I'm not ready to take on the galaxy-spanning, empire-building, political intrigue. The scope is just too vast.
At the core of it, if it ever works, it's about people and relationships and their stories, and you've got that. So yeah, because I think people come at these genres the wrong way. They build the worlds first and worry about the characters afterwards, which and for me it's always character first. That's a great answer, and I definitely want to be the first to read those. Nat Connors, Gavin, do you find your chapters get shorter as you get towards the end of the story to build momentum?
I do feel like my scenes get shorter, and because I'm sort of excited about getting there. Earlier on, my scenes are maybe spread over 2 or 3 chapters, but then later in the book, I might have 2 or 3 scenes within one chapter. So the pace is increasing, but the chapters aren't necessarily getting shorter.
Do you envisage any of your books going to screen?
Which author doesn't, really? I mean, TV and movie rights are available now, so if anybody wants to throw disgusting amounts of money at me, they are most welcome to.
TV loves mystery, loves that mystery, and loves a small town, loves that cozy mystery. That is huge. So why not? Why the hell not? Why, have you put together any kind of pitch deck for it? Have you got an agent that can maybe open doors for you in that direction?
No.
How do you get in and out of scenes? Is it organic for you, or do you plan at all?
It's a little bit of like when I'm coming up with my suspects, at the same time, I'm thinking, where could the interview or the conversation be? Because I don't want them all to be in the coffee shop. I don't want them all to be in the visitor center. I want a bit of variety. And so it's a little bit of a case of, okay, I've got some ideas of suspects where they might be interviewed. And then either I'm a shocker for basically filling in all the gaps and writing, and then they like walked there. But sometimes in the edits, I'm just like, and then they were there. Because nobody cares how they walk there, and there's nothing interesting to add along the way. So getting in and out of scenes, it's sometimes I just need to be like, okay, we're starting the scene. And then if I need, but a lot of the time I find myself having to write into the scene. And like they come through the door, they sit down, and then later on I'm like, oh, we don't need that. There's nothing dramatic or interesting. It's not telling anybody anything. So I do find myself slowly easing myself into each scene and then out again. But then often that gets cut because it's kind of boring.
Yeah, coming late, get out early,
Yes.
Having moved from romance to cozy mystery with an element of romance, do you think you'll write full romance again in the future?
Oh, I have this idea. I think the great thing about mysteries is you constantly have excuses to introduce new characters. That you've got suspects, people giving you information. And so I have so many characters which I've had so much fun with, and I'd love to give them more time. And I thought, how cool would it be? I've got the Milverton Mysteries. How cool would it be to pick some of these characters who've had just single scenes and like the Milverton romances, and they each get one book each. And I think that would be a lot of fun to write. So that is a potential next series, but then I have to learn how to write a romance properly, which is not an easy task.
Do you envisage a big international down brownie like murder case in a future book? Good one.
That'll be for my traveling detective. So then I'll have to go and investigate all of these cool old buildings and beautiful locations. So yes, I think that would be a very important thing to do, and tax deductible as well, because it's all going in the book.
When I read your books through Kindle Unlimited, do you make any money?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Kindle Unlimited, I had intended with these mysteries, I thought, okay, when you do Kindle Unlimited, you commit to 90 days at a time. So 3 months. Yeah. And my thinking was, okay, it'd be great to sort of get it out there, introduce it to more people. And then after one period of being in Kindle Unlimited, then I'll I'll pull it out of there, and then I can make it wide on Kobo and Apple and all the rest. But then after those 3 months, I was like, oh, half of the royalties are coming from Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to chop that off and then start again elsewhere. So I thought, I'll just renew it for another session, another 90-day period. And I was like, okay. So yes, the answer is yes. Possibly half the money comes with Kindle Unlimited. So absolutely, you can read them you can buy the ebook, the individual unit itself, like normal. You can read through Kindle Unlimited. Audiobooks, paperbacks, they all make money for the author. So whatever format, or even just get them out of the library, because then the librarians, if they see people getting your books out, then they will be like, oh, we need to buy an extra couple of copies because the wait list is too long. And so that's money going towards you as well. And then, because they only last a few reads or however many reads, and the books are destroyed. So the library has to buy another copy.
Marketing-wise, which platform do you find the most successful for your books?
I presume you mean like social media platform? They all sort of have different purposes. My Instagram is sort of, I've inherited friends and family who are very lovely. There's only so many times you can sell the same book to your friends and family. But then Facebook, I've picked up a lot of readers who I wouldn't have expected. TikTok was really fun. It comes in waves, where I get enthusiasm to do some videos and then it drops off again. But that is because TikTok shows your stuff to a lot of people who don't follow you. So I think that has been really interesting to pick up people who've never heard of me, because my videos have been shown to them. Whereas on the other platforms, a lot of it is your stuff getting shown to a subset of your own followers who already know you. I don't know. Probably the most engagement is through my mailing list, actually, because that's the most reliable. It gets sent out and I can see roughly how many people open it. That's where it starts. And then it's sort of like, okay, I have the content. Now I can recycle that to the social medias.
Thank you everyone for your questions. Those were absolutely brilliant. Thank you. What's bringing you joy at the moment? Could be books, movies, TV shows, and maybe give us a Christmas song or two as well. So kick us off.
Everyone this Christmas has a secret. It is by an Australian author, but that's okay. Benjamin Stevenson. Absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed it. It's got like 24 chapters, and each chapter has another clue, like an advent calendar. It's the third in the series. The first one is everyone in my family has killed someone, I think. And the second one is everyone on this train is a suspect. Oh, fantastic. Very clever and very breaking the fourth wall and talking about mysteries while writing a mystery. Another is The Holly King by Mr. Mark Stay.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not like I've got a copy here and you told me in advance.
I'm not even saying this just to butter up the host, because this is the end of the podcast. So I'm genuine. I didn't get a chance to read it before Christmas last year, and I can't hold it up because it was the audiobook. But Mark can hold it up for you. But I thought we're coming up to Christmas now, so now is the perfect time to read it again. And now I'm up to date again, and now I'm looking forward to The Corn Bride.
I was, my big shout line for it was going to be, it's the wedding of the year, but now you're getting married and you've ruined that. Thanks, Emily.
Sorry.
The fictional wedding of the year.
Yes, I guess so. What else is bringing you joy, Gavin?
Only Murders in the Building.
And can you open this snack? My assistant's not here.
Again, great fun. Disney, I think, Disney Plus. I didn't know what to expect with these three going in, but it is cozy, quirky, a lot of fun, and have really enjoyed each season.
I love it, but they get podcasting all wrong.
Yeah.
No one records a podcast like that.
Yeah. I mean, I have no experience with podcasting or sort of true crime podcasts or anything like that. So I have to just believe that this is how it's really done. Maybe you're doing it wrong, Mark.
Yeah, well, it would explain a lot.
I've just been watching Arcane on Netflix, which is just this gorgeously animated TV show. Absolutely fantastic. Been rewatching the first season in anticipation of the second season, which has just come out. Really, really cool. This, they're making TV shows these days, and they say, oh, it's a sort of a 2-screen viewing experience where they expect people to be on their phones the entire time.
Right,
So they
yes.
don't put maybe as much effort into making it look as lush. But this is just so stunning. Yeah, so beautifully animated. Oh, I've lost my Santa hat. Oh, well. What else was it? Was it games, did you say? Mini Metro and Mini Motorways.
I'm not driving a Mini Metro.
Beautifully designed games. There's sort of Wellington-based studio, Dinosaur Polo Club. Mini Metro, it's like a tube map, but it starts off blank and a couple of stations appear and you have to draw a line between them. And then more stations appear and you have passengers that start piling up at stations, and it takes like 10 minutes, and it's quite soothing. It's quite satisfying drawing all these beautiful lines. But yeah, very fun games. And yeah.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to quickly race through what's giving me joy this month. First of all, The Penguin. Didn't have hugely high expectations, but this really does live up to the Sopranos meets Batman pitch. And a lot of people have been praising Colin Farrell. That's him there, believe it or not, and rightly so. But for me, it was Christine Milioti as Sophia Falcone, who just completely stole the show. She was just amazing. And if you liked her in this, check her out. There's a brilliant time loop rom-com called Palm Springs.
Oh, that's great. That's so much fun.
Brilliant, brilliant film. It's on Amazon Prime in the UK. I think Hulu in the USA. It's absolutely fantastic. The other thing I'm enjoying at the moment is Christian Nairn's autobiography, Beyond the Throne. Now, most people know Christian as Hodor from Game of Thrones. He was Owen in Unwelcome in that film, What I Wrote. There he is there. He is a genuinely, genuinely lovely man. I remember a long conversation we had about his character. He really put so much thought into it. Little things like the character has a pink Game Boy, and he was talking about the fact that he didn't have any choice in the color because he had to get it secondhand and all that. He really, really thought about it. Now, before Game of Thrones, he was already a successful DJ. He was a drag queen called Revlon, 2 V's to avoid litigation. He's also appeared in shows like Our Flag Means Death. And the book, I'm about a quarter of the way through it, and I'm absolutely loving it because it alternates between him starting on Game of Thrones and childhood flashbacks. So he it was coming out to his mum and his best friend in his teens in 80s Belfast, which is you have to imagine how hard that must have been. And it's done in his voice. Very often with these things, it's the the celebrity talking to a ghostwriter, but it just captures his voice brilliantly. Loads of great photos in here as well. Highly, highly recommend that. Really, really enjoying that as well. In terms of music, I'm really enjoying Rosalie Cunningham. She's got a new album called To Shoot Another Day, and the title track is like a 70s, 80s Bond theme. She's absolutely brilliant. And in terms of Christmas songs, and I need to come to you, Gavin, about your Christmas song in a minute, but for me, to add them to the Christmas playlist, you could go for Kate Bush, December Will Be Magic Again.
December will be magic again.
But this could easily sit beside any of the classics on the first 3 albums. The only trouble is it's not on any streamer, so you would have to sort of burn it from the CD, which I did back in the day, which is why I can do it.
You have to find a CD player to be able to do that first these days.
But I would also recommend Nick Lowe's song Christmas at the Airport, which will bring a smile to the face of anyone who's had the misfortune to attempt a flight at Christmas.
Check-in was deserted, everyone had gone, and it looked...
And it comes from his album Quality Street, which is a really good Christmas festive treat album. So Christmas tracks, Gavin, have you got a Christmas track you'd like to share with us?
While I was having breakfast this morning, one of my Christmas playlists was playing, and one that I really enjoy is Ali X's version of Last Christmas. I think it's Last Xmas.
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart.
I really enjoyed it. But I think the one that I had said to you before was it's not a real song, or it's not a single. It was a mashup, again, of Wham's Last Christmas and Chapel Roan's Good Luck Babe. By twin brother DJs Altego. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right or not. But, it's about giving away your heart at Christmas, but also kissing 100 boys in bars. And it's great fun. Great, excellent mix. But I think it's, as far as I can tell, it's just on one of their Instagram reels.
Last Christmas,
Thank you so much. Thank you, Gavin, for being such a wonderful guest. What's next from you? What are your big goals for 2025?
To write the next book is the main one. Write the next book, which is Fright on Stage Right. It's going to be
Wicked.
sort of spooky nighttime theatrical vibes. Oh yeah, I've got it for pre-order now. As you can see there on the
Wow.
right, it's already up.
Serious?
Yeah, and it's sort of set around Halloween and Guy Fawkes.
Brilliant.
So yeah, it's going to be a very different vibe to the previous ones. In that, well, the other ones are sort of more daytime. This one's more nighttime, and I'm going to have a lot of fun just bringing in spooky time of year and in the theatre. There's a lot of mystery books written in the theatre, and
Yes.
so I will have a lot of inspiration to draw from.
Fantastic. You celebrate Guy Fawkes Night in New Zealand.
Well, we set off fireworks and we have bonfires and guys and all that. But it seems like we have it more so than Halloween. Halloween is very low key here. There may be maybe like a spooky movie at the movie theater. A couple of cul-de-sacs might put up some decorations and have some trick or treating, but it's not really a thing.
It's so weird because here Halloween is massive. Fireworks night is just when people have their displays, but you don't have penny for the guy or anything like that anymore, do you? Not really, no. So I think people let off fireworks and have no clue why they do it.
Yeah.
We'll return after these messages.
Let's talk about the Green Room. Twice a month, I run live sessions on Zoom where, if you're a writer, you can ask me questions about the craft of writing, your work in progress, or the business of publishing. The sessions are fun and informal and chatty. I thought they'd run for like half an hour. They've all been about an hour long so far. You can send me questions in advance, and they're recorded live and saved on Ko-fi for exclusive access to Green Room supporters. There's a link going across the bottom there. There's no long-term commitment with Ko-fi. You can support for just a month. It's £20 a month for Green Room membership, or for as long as you like. Pop in, pop out, whatever works for you. My goal is to be able to give supporters advice that will make a real difference to their writing and career, because the way I see it, having worked in this industry as a salesperson, bookseller and author for over 30 years, I've made every mistake so you don't have to. The next Green Room sessions are Tuesday 10th of December. Now, if you're watching live, you'll be able to make that. If you listen to the podcast, you missed it. But let's just see, Thursday 19th of December, and then we'll have two more in January as well. I hope to see you there, so pop over to Ko-fi and check that out. Let's not forget, you can pre-order The Corn Bride. There it is, a beautiful cover there by Harry Goldhawk. It's coming in March. Order from all good retailers. Now, if you want a signed paperback, then pop over to the Woodville Village Bookshop. And I got books, and you can buy them wherever books are sold, good bookstores. If you want a signed and dedicated copy, you can come straight to my store at the witchesofwoodville.com website. I really hope you've enjoyed this episode of Creative Differences. You'll find all the links we discussed in the show notes for this episode, and on the episode's webpage at markstaycreativedifferences.com. Huge thanks to Emily for our production assistance, to Kai Newton for the edit. He's going to do really quickly before you go away to look at wedding venues this weekend.
Yeah.
And to Dominic Currie for the jingle. And a very special thank you to my special guest, GB Ralph. There is. And to everyone who's joined us live tonight. If you're listening to the audio podcast or re-watching this on Facebook or YouTube, thank you very much. But we really missed you. And you are more than welcome to join us live next month. Next month's guest is Nicola May, who's here. Say hello, Nicola. Thursday, 30th of January, 2025. And Nicola is a best-selling author renowned for her heartwarming and humorous romantic comedies. Over 18 books to her name. Her work has captured readers' hearts around the world. She's top 100 Amazon Kindle bestseller. She's achieved the remarkable feat of reaching #1 on Amazon twice. She's a huge advocate for indie authors, and now she's signed to Storm Publishing. She's going to continue writing heartfelt rom-coms. So yeah, we're starting 2025 with an absolutely amazing author. I hope you can join us live. And if you've enjoyed the podcast, things like ratings, reviews, likes, shares, subscribing, these all help massively with those AI algorithms. So until next time, happy writing, happy reading, and being different. Thanks, everyone. And thank you, Gavin. And let's all wave goodbye, because that's what you do at the end of a show. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.